every time R2-D2 or whatever droid it is goes up to a port, it's connected. It's live. You just have this unguarded, open, live port that any old droid can just plug into and access. There's no rogue device detection. There's nothing. So you have live ports open all over the place that connect to your main system, and there's no physical security checking that.
I think the really Empire certainly has never heard of zero trust architecture or right. Verify, trust no one, inside or out kind of thing. It does seem like not just the Empire, but think about any instance in which R2-D2 plugs in, right? And because I know someone's going to put it in the comments, right? It's called a SCOMP link computer interface. It's a SCOMP link computer interface. That's what these books are. That's what I learned when I grew up. So,
but the point is this, though. I mean, no organization. Forget about your architecture and your authentication mechanisms. No good enterprise cybersecurity leaves open network jacks all over the place that anybody can just plug into. You turn them off. You turn them on when you need them, or you have them in controlled areas. And you're certainly going to have some version of device authentication and rogue device detection in enterprise class systems. I mean, in a home network, you're not going to do that. But in an enterprise class environment today, we're always going to authenticate the devices that are connected to our network. We call it rogue device detection. Is a whole name for it. So the idea that a rogue droid, which is a device, even though it's a very fancy device, is going to be able to connect to the environment and then interact freely, that's bad security.
Yeah. I like this theory that I've kind of thought about over the years. Every time I watch watch one of the movies for the umpteenth time, I always think, is R2-D2 just a really good hacker, a really good slicer, or is R2-D2 a legacy vulnerability? And here's what I mean by that.
All right, that's a thought.
If you go all the way back to when R2-D2 was created, he was created by a company called Industrial Automaton, way before the Clone Wars. And R2-D2 really cut his teeth in the Clone Wars. He was not only part of the Galactic Republic military, so he was always plugging into ports left and right. He was also heavily involved with the Jedi. He was also heavily involved with the politics, right? The actual Senate itself. He was around everywhere. So not only did he pick up tons of information, but he also got direct access to the software and the infrastructure that the Galactic Republic built their fighters, battle stations, and communication networks out of. Now, if we fast forward to the Galactic Empire, it seems that their designs are more heavily based upon what was going on, what they had in the Galactic Republic at the time, right? Look at the stormtroopers are built directly from the clone troopers. The Star Destroyers are designed directly from the Star Destroyers that they had in the Republic. The Jedi cruisers, right? Why would their information technology be any different? And why would their communication systems be any different? So
you got me thinking. Go ahead, let's finish.
Yeah, I pose that R2-D2 is a good hacking droid. He's got a lot of spunk and personality because he's been around for a long time without a memory wipe. But he's only so good because the Empire has not updated their operating system, and they certainly haven't patched their mainframe in a long time. So he just has general access because he's had it for 40, 50 years.
I think you're onto something, but I look at it a little differently. Some of the most serious security risks that we deal with in environments are lower level risks. In other words, it's one thing to come in through the front door that everyone's expecting you to come in through. But if you have perhaps a rogue chip, a counterfeit chip, or basically device level infiltration, it is undetectable in most cases, which is why we are very restrictive about portable storage devices and supply chain security. Because if you can actually introduce vulnerabilities at a level that operates lower than where your security is operating, you could bypass any security any day. Ultimately, physical access trumps logical access control and security control measures. Even today, there was a huge incident a couple of years ago, not to get too far off on our normal topic, but just to go there for a minute, where they were embedding these small, extremely small, hard to detect malicious chips in these boards that were being put out. Evidently, it was a Chinese company that was behind it, working out of Taiwan, and they compromised the design process for these chips. And these chips got propagated all across the world and even used in some cases in very sensitive places. But because those chips were built into the boards that were actually built into these computers, no one could detect. It wasn't a software-based intrusion. It was a backdoor built in. So I'm digging your argument there that because R2 was a legacy component in their in technical environment or network or whatever you want to call it, he could potentially be that backdoor to every system, which would explain his ability to just hack into everything.
I don't want to poke too many holes in my own. I don't want to poke too many holes in my own theory. I mean, I think that's sound when it comes to the empire, no doubt, because the empire is built upon a lot of people. Basically saying, "Oh, that could never happen. We're too strong, or we're too secure, or they would never dare to do that." I mean, but and we'll touch on that in just a moment, and how that relates to kind of like how cybersecurity is developed and actually implemented today, right? You got mission over security kind of stuff. But before we go into that, I think it's important also to recognize that R2-D2 is an incredible slicer because he goes into like civilian or industrial centers and just plugs in and he's got station readouts and so on and so forth. I think that there is an idea that permeates through the entire galaxy that's simply perimeter security only, right? That seems to be what they have. The second you get, like you were saying, the second you get past physical access control procedures or physical access security controls, the second you get past those, it's open field day. You get access to everything, right? In A New Hope, they get access to the Death Star readouts. They know that Princess Leia is a prisoner on board simply because they got past, the stormtroopers that were supposed to secure the ship. The Millennium Falcon was a real life Trojan horse that let them in past the perimeter defenses. And the second they got past those, guess what? R2 was able to get all the information he needed. It's kind of the same deal when you look at like anywhere like Cloud City or really anything else. Look at the Millennium Falcon as well. The second R2 actually has the physical access, he seems to be able to get whatever he needs. So there seems to be like a uber reliance on perimeter defense as opposed to, defense in depth.
Yeah, that's actually been one of my biggest complaints for years as a cybersecurity professional. The idea of putting all your confidence in the perimeter and having carte blanche on the inside is the thing that makes insider threats so absolutely damaging and destructive to organizations. And it's one of the reasons why I'm a big proponent of zero trust architectures within the boundary. But just basic physical measures. Once you physically get access to something, that trumps any sort of logical access that you could have. If I physically get access to a machine, at some point or another, I can brute force it. I can find some way to break it through. So if I can walk out of an environment with a blade, with an actual computer, and what I want is on that computer, it's just a matter of time. I'll get it. So physical access is everything. So putting all the trust into perimeter security and then giving carte blanche, in the early days, it's amazing how easy it was in many different organizations that I worked with to access server rooms and wire closets. I mean, literally none of them would ever be locked and very often wouldn't be manned. But a lot of organizations are getting a little better about that now. But the whole case of what's happening in the Star Wars world just illustrates the fact that putting all your security in the boundary is just not a good practice.